Alright, welcome back. Today we'll get into some NBA talk. End of the season coming up.
End of the season here.
Yeah. What a crazy season. They got through the first ever shortened season, 72 games.
Not first ever. We've had a couple of lockout years. But
Non-lockout shortened season, yeah. So do you think they'll keep with the 72 games?
I think it would be a good idea to cut the season out, but except doing it in like the regular season way, so it's not all condensed, because the condensed part of the season is the reason why everybody's been hurt all year.
I think the injuries are a little overblown. I think people get hurt every year, and I've never been a big fan of less games, but 72 with an expanded play-in. I think I could settle with that.
Are we really gonna except for the record books, extra 10 games is pretty much irrelevant to me.
Yeah, the record books. You got to catch Kareem and Carl.
And taking 10 games away a year is not gonna help with that.
I bet you LeBron's not happy to hear that, especially now that these games are even harder to get through for him now that he's older. But good season overall. Let's get to some of the awards. Lots of injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah, so which honestly made the awards easier.
Yeah.
Because only a certain amount of people could even be in the conversation for these awards.
Survival of the fittest, easily like that.
It's how CP3 ends up in an MVP conversation.
So let's start with there. Neither of us agree that Chris Paul is an MVP candidate. Actually,
I don't even think he's in the top 5.
So do you think his team success has boosted him, or his what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for?
It's a mixture. The Suns.
His reputation.
Yeah, I think the reputation has a part of it. They're trying to give him a lifetime achievement award type of thing, because the Suns have had the least amount of injuries in the league. They've only missed 11 games to their starters the entire season, and most of those are on rest. They've been by far the healthiest team in the league, but Chris Paul's not even the best player on that team. So to hand out an MVP to the guy who's the clear second best player on his team seems iffy to me.
I've been saying I think him and Devin Booker are a lot closer. I think they're pretty tied for best player. But, yeah, with a player that good, as good as you, that's responsible for the turnaround, I don't see how Chris Paul would even be higher than Devin Booker in the MVP discussion.
If you have to split votes because of your team's success, then, Chris Paul can't be in the conversation any more than Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert are.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
And neither
one of them are in the conversation, so.
Yeah. Also, it goes to show you that it's so hard to win the MVP, because if you look over Chris Paul's career, he looks like an MVP caliber player.
Yeah.
But his closest chance to win the MVP is going to go back all the way to when he lost to Kobe Bryant. All those years ago.
Year 3. It really shows you, you can't, there's no guarantee to ever get back to that level.
Goes how hard it is to win it when you see someone like Steve Nash or even Giannis win back-to-back. It's or LeBron. It's hard to win MVPs. Because every year there's going to be the media narrative pushing for the new guys. So, I guess we'll just start with that award. The MVP, we're both in consensus that it's going to be
Nikola Jokic.
He's a top 5 player.
Easily. No question about it. He's a top 5 player in the league. He's been carrying that franchise, that team, the entire year. He's elevated his game. He got in shape quicker this year.
He really dragged them out of that Carmelo Anthony era.
The Nuggets were in a transition position, but they fell into a superstar with the 47th pick.
He's going to be the greatest second round pick of all time after he wins the MVP. Probably.
Incredible.
His skill is I've never seen a player like him. He's like Steve Nash, but he plays center.
Great on Jokic. Congratulations to Jokic. It's a shame that the Murray injury is probably going to cap their possible ceiling this year. That's a team who could have been thinking about an NBA Finals.
With Murray, I would say they would have been the second best team in the West.
I agree. I think they're arguably still the second best team in the West, but we'll see how it goes when the playoffs roll around.
Also, he has a dope nickname. Everybody needs every MVP needs a dope nickname. You don't win MVP without a nickname.
That's very true.
His stats, you got his stats pulled up by chance?
I can go pull them up real quick. You can go ahead.
He definitely could have averaged a triple-double if he wanted to, but I think he's averaging 25, 12, and 9.
I got him right here. Jokic is 26, 11, and 8.
Come on.
57% from the field, 87% from the line, 40% from 3. He's even giving you a steal and a block a game.
His defense has even been better this year. That's probably the lesser part of his game, which is probably holding him back from being that top 3, top 2 player, but he's probably the 3rd best offensive player at worst in the league.
He's been absolutely outstanding all year, consistent. He's been healthy. He's played high minutes. Denver's going to be the 3 seed, and they almost got better when Jamal Murray went out in the regular season just because Jokic turned his game up to another level. I think he's well deserving of the MVP, and congratulations to Jokic.
Yep. Other guys in consideration, it could have been Joel Embiid. Yeah.
If Embiid doesn't get that bone bruise, these two guys were in a deadlock.
Yeah.
And with Embiid winning the 1 seed, he probably would have won.
He was going to win it. He was going to be the MVP, and it sucks that he's going to. This is probably, like Chris Paul, we're going to look back in 10 years and be like, remember that time that Joel Embiid almost was the MVP?
Almost was the MVP.
I'll also say Luka Doncic, second half of the season, also picked it up. I thought he could have got a good claim to it.
It's just, I think they started a little too slow.
Yeah,
like they're the 5 seed.
His first half sent him back so
and
far.
He's not averaging a triple double like Russell Westbrook when he was kind of be a 4, 5, 6 seed. So yeah, like there were plenty of other guys. LeBron, if he doesn't get hurt, would definitely have been in the conversation for MVP.
One of the Nets guys.
One of the Nets guys, but like too many people missed injuries this year. Isn't it wild that the MVP race is all center race? Isn't that?
It was about time. I mean, we haven't seen an MVP from the center position since Shaquille O'Neal
in 2000.
In 2000, and neither of us were watching like that in 2000.
Tim Duncan and KG were basically centers.
And I consider Giannis a center.
They played 4 at those times. So.
I mean, I think it's overblown that centers haven't won it, but like Giannis is a center in his system. KG, Tim Duncan are centers, so like you're right about that. So I guess next we'll do Rookie of the Year because I think that's also consensus that
LaMelo Ball.
He popped. That people were hating on LaMelo Ball.
People were stupid for whoever. Like LaMelo Ball was the clear best player in this draft.
People were mad at him. His dad said he was the best. His best basketball playing son. Yes. And it shows. He's a better Lonzo Ball.
It was always extremely clear. He's got all the talent. He changed the culture of Charlotte.
They win now.
It's really been incredible what he's come in as a rookie and just stepped right in and showed that he's a all-star caliber player right away.
Yeah. 6'6", point guard with an elite passing ability, like better than Lonzo Ball passing ability.
Outstanding.
Defense is a little subpar, but every young player's defense is usually subpar.
Mm-hmm. Not the greatest athlete. I don't think he's as good as an athlete as Lonzo is, which I think which will be the only separation because Lonzo's probably a better defender overall. But LaMelo, he's Lonzo with confidence. He's aggressive. He wants to be. He goes out there like he's the best player on the floor every night.
He's as good as Lonzo today as Lonzo is in year 4. He is in year 1. So
congratulations to LaMelo Ball.
Also, but I will say Anthony Edwards, who I doubted.
He made a run.
He is athletic. He has all the athleticism.
He has all the athletic tools. He has plenty of basketball skill, plenty of athletic tools. He was going to be a good player. His floor was a lot higher than I think we were all expecting, because especially with that.
I didn't see the skill. I still don't see it, but his athleticism. He looks like Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like Dwayne Wade, and I think the skill. He has a lot of upside because that skill isn't fully polished yet. But when you see the flashes, when he's hot. He can blow by anybody. He's got effortless jumping ability. He can get hot from the 3-point line. He can create on his own. He's an ideal 2 guard. He's exactly what you're looking for. Hopefully he buys more into the defensive end, and because that's the only way Minnesota's going to get turned around. Yeah. But he's
in the worst situation probably. Even though he's got Cat. I mean, with him and Cat and D'Lo, you'd hope that they could be better.
No one succeeds in Minnesota. It's just a bad situation over there.
And Kevin Garnett and Kevin Love are just the examples of
maybe A-Rod can turn him around. He
doesn't even know who he is.
He's not with J-Lo no more. Maybe he could just focus all his attention now on getting the Timberwolves into a contender.
Anthony Edwards is so young he doesn't even know who A-Rod was.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I do want to shout out Tyrese Halliburton.
I was saying, and Emmanuel Quickley.
As well. I thought those guys were due to. Not quite on the level of LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, but we're definitely in the conversation. Play. Rookie first teamers, for sure.
Shame that Wiseman got the injury. I thought he was turning around. Maybe he could have helped Golden State down the stretch and in the playing games, but sucks that he missed so much time. But yeah, LaMelo Ball clearly.
LaMelo Ball Rookie of the Year.
So I guess next we'll go with most improved because I think we also have consensus that
it can't be anybody else.
Julius Randle ran away with it.
And as a Laker fan, I feel like a proud father, whatever you want to call it, because Julius Randle is another one of those young Lakers who everybody thought was trash, and now he's shown up and proven that he's an all-NBA caliber player.
It's so crazy because his career was on life support when he went to New Orleans, and they let him go. And then the Knicks brought him in, and then Tibbs, who everybody was sleeping on and disrespecting to start this year.
Hey, we got plenty to talk about Tibbs later. I'm just saying.
Julius Randle, he gets to play with Tibbs. You know, Tibbs is gonna put his guys in there.
40 minutes a game. Go do what you gotta do. I'll scheme up the defense for you guys. And Julius has shown the ability to carry that load. He's got
clearly the most impressive thing is his shooting has improved so astronomically.
Like, when did Julius Randle develop off the dribble 3-point pull up game? Like, that's something even at his peak of what we thought he could be coming out of Kentucky,
he didn't have that. And it never looked like he. So for the fact that he's been able to become a 40% 3-point shooter, he's the primary playmaker, facilitator. He's outside of Derrick Rose, he's the only real perimeter threat on that team. And yet they've come out here and they're going to be the 4th seed in the East. Julius Randle, congratulations, that's outstanding. He's going to be an All-NBA player this year. I think he deserves it. He should honestly could have been in the MVP discussion just for what he's done to the New York Knicks franchise. And it's a bigger knock. It's the reason why people knock Ben Simmons so much. Like, can you not develop a jump shot? Like, it's possible.
Exactly. We've all seen it. Like, if you're not developing the jumper, it feels more like laziness. Or just
too much time hanging out with the Kardashians.
Hanging out with the Kardashians instead of going out here. You know, Randall's got the mama mentality instilled in him.
Kobe instilled it in all those kids.
And now, look where he is now. Look, a guy who looks like he'll be a perennial all-star for years to come.
All right. So, speaking of Ben Simmons, he is my candidate for my choice for DPOY. I like his perimeter defense. I thought he had a great season. Offensively,
he's arguably the best perimeter defender in the league.
I think he's actually the only. Like, it was not Kawhi Leonard took a step back this year.
But you know the reason why he's able to do all that perimeter defending?
He don't play nothing on offense.
Non-threat on offense. And my question is, what's the difference between Ben Simmons and Draymond Green? If somebody wants to comment and let me know what the difference between Ben Simmons and Draymond Green is, I'm all ears. My defensive player of the year candidate is going to be Rudy. My leader will be Rudy Gobert.
He probably is going to win the award.
I think he'll win the award. He got the number 1 individual defensive rating in the league. The Jazz are a top 5 defense. The Jazz got the best record in the league, and he's the only real plus defender in that starting unit and on that roster. Yeah. I gotta give him credit for that. Even though I think when it matters, he can get played off the floor.
When he plays Jokic and AD, he's not a defensive player here no more.
Yeah, so there are certainly bad matches for Rudy Gobert. He's kind of that statue in the paint. He's not gonna come out on switches and things like that.
As we've seen what Steph Curry's done to him so often.
And which is why I think Golden State would be a bad matchup for Utah in the first round.
Yeah.
But I gotta give Rudy credit where credit is due. He anchors that defense. That defense doesn't have a lot of guys who are,
like you said, he's the only good true defensive stalwart on his team.
And yeah, I think he's definitely deserving of being DPOY. Maybe not as versatile as Ben Simmons is, but just off of pure results, I can give him the award right here.
2 guys I think are my top 3 defenders in the league actually would be AD, Giannis, and Kawhi.
Yes.
But they play so heavily on offense nowadays.
They can't carry that same load on defense. They don't get the opportunity.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the problem with that award really. That defensive players of the years usually don't play offense. They're not all of them are 2-way players usually. So, yeah. I mean, I guess next we'll go on to 6th Man of the Year.
Yeah, I think this is another one where we differ at.
It's a toss-up, but I've got to stick. At the beginning of the season, I predicted that Jordan Clarkson would be using his mama mentality to win the 6th Man of the Year. So, I mean, I got to stick with it.
That's a great call. I really didn't even think about Jordan Clarkson at the
beginning
of the season.
He was amazing in the bubble last year.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about Jordan Clarkson at the beginning of the season when it came to an award like this, but he was awesome in that. It's basically he's a big part of the reason why Utah got out to that great start that managed to just coast to the 1 seed the entire year. He was, for the first 2-3 months of the season, he was a microwave scorer off the bench. He really changed life for Utah. Ever since they made that trade, they've been a better team.
Which is crazy because
credit for that.
You're not very high on Jordan Clarkson, but I mean, he fits. He found his role. That's what it needs. A lot of these players in the NBA have to find their role, and he always looked like a 6-man scorer, and he's developed and he's grown in size and stature. He's in
his prime.
Yeah,
he's in his prime. This is a guy who was an All-NBA rookie first teamer in 2014. So Jordan Clarkson's in year 6, year 7, year 8. He's definitely in the prime of his career. He's definitely deserving of this award. But my winner is going to be the guy from the second half of the season who an elite trade deadline acquisition that has turned the New York Knicks from fighting for the play-in spot to home court advantage in the playoffs, and that's Derrick Rose.
MVP turned 6th Man of the Year.
Which is, it's almost unfair for him to be. It's almost unfair for Derrick Rose to even be a 6th Man of the Year candidate because we know this is an MVP player. Like, he may not be that guy anymore, but we know that Derrick Rose can always turn back the clock and show, like, nah, I'm one of the best players on the planet. He stabilized the Knicks bench. He forced him not to have to play Emmanuel Quickly too much, or having to play Kevin Knox or Alec Burks or Frank Ntilikina. They traded away Dennis Smith Jr. Derrick Rose is probably the second best player on that team, and they're a 4 seed. They're one of the best defenses. He's ramped up his defense. They're one of the best defenses in the league.
It's Derrick Rose.
Like,
he doesn't dunk on people no more, and he hasn't dunked on people in so long that it's
it's crazy. But he's developed all the skill. He's got the jumpers there now.
Elite quickness is still there.
He's still got most of the touch and finishing ability at the rim. He's just
shame.
not gonna.
It's a shame he can't
spike it on Dragic.
Yeah, that's the saddest what if of all time probably. But Derrick Rose, I mean, if he won it, I wouldn't have no problem with that. I mean, it's the 6th man of the year. I saw earlier that Zach Lowe was going with Bogdanovich. I could think about who was I thinking about? Ingles? Oh yeah, Ingles, not Bogdanovich. He actually starts for them. I can't think of anybody else really except for those few guys.
There weren't a lot of great candidates this year. The injuries have forced a lot of guys who were normally coming off the bench to the starting lineup. The Lakers had the starter.
I want to talk about the two
winner.
Lakers guys.
Yeah, the Lakers had the winner and the runner-up last year.
One of them became a starter.
One of them's a starter.
And one of them just fell off.
Yeah, they're on a team now where their services aren't as required, so they can't put up the same numbers.
I will say Luke Kennard on the Clippers comes to mind. He had a decent season, and Reggie Jackson.
I definitely think is more good options. But yeah, I think it was a clear 2-man race with Derrick Rose, honestly, just coming on kind of late.
Yeah. All right. So next we'll go on to Coach of the Year.
Okay. My Coach of the Year was Monty Williams from the Phoenix Suns. I thought, even with the addition of Chris Paul and Jay Crowder in the offseason and some development of Bridges and Booker and Ayton, I never expected them to be the number 2, fighting for the number 1 seed tonight in the Western Conference. Even though they've been extremely lucky with health, even though the rest of the West has been struggling with their health, for them to make a jump from not even a playoff team to the best record in the league, I think that's got to be, a lot of that has to go to Monty Williams and that credit for bringing that team together quickly and being able to just go out there and win, because that's what they've done. They've just gone out there consistently every night and they've performed at a high level. My
only knock against Monty Williams is his team stayed healthy. His team is loaded, and they stayed healthy. While the Nuggets got hurt, Dallas's Kristaps Porzingis is always knocked up. The Lakers were hurt. The Clippers load managing were hurt. So I don't know how good of and he's always been a good coach. Like, he should have never lost his job in New Orleans.
Agreed.
He's also got to reunite with Chris Paul. So Chris Paul knew the system. I think I'm going to give more credit to that turnaround than Chris Paul. And because I'm a New Yorker, I say that this award has to go to one of those coaches in New York.
Tibbs will be my runner-up, but I don't think Tibbs is your...
My first guy is Steve Nash. Come on. How could it not be Steve Nash?
It cannot be Steve Nash because he's got Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving on his team.
And they played 8 combined games together.
But we know 2 of the 3 have been around for most of the time.
A lot of James Harden by himself is like 7-2 or something like that. But I mean, Steve Nash, now the only thing knock against him is that D'Antoni's his assistant. He has 2 head coaches as his assistant coach.
I remember Kyrie telling me they don't even have a head coach. So for a team with no head coach to have the coach of the year seems kind of interesting to me.
Being that I'm a Nets fan, I'll stand on the table for my man Steve Nash. He did a good job, but really he sat on the coach.
How could he not?
But really, I really should be Tibbs. It should be Tibbs. I mean, the disrespect that people were disrespecting Tibbs, even though I was like, that's Tibbs. I mean, all of his teams, even in Minnesota, have been playoff caliber.
Well, the Jimmy Butler Minnesota team. Don't forget there was a year where Jimmy Butler was not there, and the success was not the same for Tom Thibodeau. But I think the Knicks, they're the perfect roster for him. A bunch of no real superstars, but a bunch of dudes who are who are scrappy, want to play defense, want to play hard every single night, want to play high minutes. That's the type of roster Tibbs needed. They bought into his culture, they bought into his style of coaching, and I really think that's a Tibbs team in New York. And to be a coach of the year, to have your personality or imprint on the team is very important. I definitely think if they didn't have the slow start that they had, that he might have been able to win this award, because they might even be a 3 seed, because they only started slow because they were dealing with injuries and they were waiting for Derrick Rose, and they didn't have Derrick Rose yet.
And the one thing I'll say is nobody thought the Knicks were going to be a top 4 seed in the league.
Nobody thought the Knicks were going to be good. So the fact that
they were actually projected to be one of the worst teams in the league. So
the Knicks going from laughing stock to a team that very few want to see.
Might be in the second round.
Yeah, a team that very few want to see in the first or second round. You got to give Tibbs a lot of credit for that. That's for sure.
All right.
All right, play-in tournament preview.
Damn. Play-in tournament. So first official regular season expanded playoff tournament.
Yeah, without a bubble or seeding games or anything. Just everybody duked it out for 72 condensed, tough, injury-riddled games, and now the dust is settled, and we're trying to get a look at what we're about to see in these playoffs.
So I guess the first question is, how do you feel about the play-in? I mean, I think it's actually cool how they developed it.
It's working how it's supposed to work. Part of me thinks that 7 shouldn't have to fight for their spot. I really think it should only be 8th, because I think at 7, you're not a fringe playoff team. You're securely in it. So for 7 to have to fight for a spot, it creates more excitement, and that's what the NBA needs. They need the ratings boost. So as far as that goes, it's working perfectly. A little unfair for the 7 seeds, but it's not a big deal. The 7 seeds should be able to handle their business.
Yeah. So I guess we'll run down the standings right now. So Utah's at 1.
Mm-hmm.
They had a good season, good regular season.
Best regular season they ever had.
Is that really?
This is the first time they've ever been the outright record leader in the NBA.
Okay. And then 2, so Utah will be waiting for the official 8 seed winner, who will be the last winner of the play-in tournament on the west side.
It's funny. The 1 seed, they can see 3 different teams. They can see the 7. Actually, they can see all 4. They can see They can see any team.
That's really probably that's probably screwing with those top seeds, because you can't even start preparing yet. At 2 in the West, we've got Phoenix, just as good in the regular season as Utah.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest surprise of the year. Good health for them too.
Excellent health. That's what. Who could have imagined them being this high in the standings when the season started? But good on Phoenix. The best regular season they've had probably since Nash was winning 2 MVPs.
Then 3, we saw Denver kind of tank it out to make sure they get their spot, keep that spot secure, and lock in Portland's spot.
Probably the most interesting part of the weekend of the Nuggets and the Clippers duking it out to see who didn't have to be the 3 seed. And wow, what do you think about that? What do you think about the Clippers losing to the Rockets and the Thunder in the last weekend, and the Nuggets not really trying too hard to win that game against Denver the last night of the season?
They definitely tanked it out. Clippers, like everyone's saying, the Clippers are scared of the Lakers, so I mean, I don't think they're actually going to win the championship. So
I mean, they believe it either,
and clearly they don't believe it either. So they're at 4. Good under. Not too crazy of a great season for the Clippers this year. They just flew under the radar,
which is probably what they wanted. To fly under the radar, to not have the media attention on them, the pressure on them. They just want to be able to try to just figure out their chemistry and their team issues and get ready for another playoff run.
And so, since 4 and 5 don't have to wait to find out their opponent, so the Clippers will be playing Dallas, who's at 5.
Rematch in the first round last year.
They also had an underwhelming season as well as the Clippers.
Mm-hmm. It's like the standings in the West are almost inverted. Like the teams that you expected to be towards the top, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Mavs, the Lakers, are sitting down at the bottom of the bracket, while Phoenix and Utah are sitting here at the top of the standings.
Yep, and then 6, Portland, another underwhelming season.
Portland just gets their spot. They actually are in a higher spot than they were last year, so you can technically say they got better.
Yeah.
They seem pretty capped out, though, in terms of like their ceiling, though.
The hype around Damian Lillard this year, you would hope that they wouldn't just be a 6 seed, but
whatever. People are in love with Damian Lillard, and he'll always get the credit for, I guess, the Mamba mentality that he shows, the leadership, the intangible things. People are in love with Damian Lillard, and if he was in a better situation, he would probably be considered a better player than what he is, but he's important.
I mean, I'm still taking Steph and Russ over Dame. Those are my guys for the top 2 point guards.
Maybe not Russ, but Steph's been the best point guard in the league by a decent margin for the last 5 years. I don't even think it's been up for debate, and he's really done a good job quieting the haters with this run he's had in the last 2 months of the regular season.
All right, so that takes us to the playing games that are going to be on Wednesday night, because the Western games are on Wednesday night. So the first one is the 7-seeded LA Lakers, your LA Lakers.
Yeah.
The Nuggets made sure to
the Western Conference team went pretty much out of their way to make sure Portland was playing in this damn play-in tournament. The only team that didn't want them in there was Phoenix.
You mean LA?
That was not playing in this play-in tournament. The only team that wanted Portland in the play-in tournament was Phoenix. It just everybody else seemed to be perfectly fine with playing Portland in the first round, whether that be LAC or Denver. Portland's got to feel a certain type of way about that, in my opinion.
I mean, Damian Lillard better bring it. He better bring it. I mean,
he said, "Put some respect on my name." Remember that?
Yeah, he better bring it.
He got a chance to prove it right now. But as far as the first playing game with the Lakers and the Warriors, this is probably the dream matchup for the NBA for a play-in tournament. Like, you can't get a play-in tournament with more star power than LeBron versus Steph.
What a fall! These guys were playing in the finals a few years running for so long, and now they're in the first ever play-in.
There's definitely extenuating circumstances. I actually got by a tweet today about Klay Thompson being questionable for the play-in game on Wednesday. I almost had a heart attack.
I mean,
I think you can definitely point to the fact that Klay missed the entire season. LeBron's missed significant chunks. AD missed significant chunks. These are teams that would probably have been higher in the standings if it were for the injury issues that they dealt with the whole year.
And you're a part of Lake Show, so you got the Lakers?
Of course. We're gonna win this game by 20 points. I honestly, the Warriors have about a 15% chance of winning the game. And the reason why I'm giving them 15% because if they played in a 7-game series, the Lakers would probably win in 5 because Steph would go crazy one time. But in this scenario, one time's all you need. So that gives them the puncher's chance that they have. They do have some guys with championship mentality. So it's not like they can't win the game, but they're pretty outmatched across the board. Like Steph is going to be asked to carry the greatest load he's ever had to carry to go win a game. And we'll see if he can do it.
I'll go the other way. I think Steph will do it. I think he'll have his signature moment of the season, and he'll pull out the 20. They have about a 25% chance of winning. If Steph doesn't go off, they're going to get blown out probably by 20 because I'm pretty sure I saw today that they've lost 2 of the games by an average margin of 25 points.
The games they came back from a 19-point deficit in the one game they won against the Lakers. So like they've generally been getting blown out the entire time they've played the Lakers out. This is different. These teams are going to be trying their absolute hardest. They're going to have a couple days to game plan. They've seen each other 4 times this year already just from the division matchups. LeBron and Steph have a ton of history of playing each other in high-stakes games. So these teams are very familiar with each other. There's going to be a lot of intensity, a lot of, Draymond's going to bring the emotion. It should be fun. The problem with the Warriors, and I think their chances are, I think Steph could go off and they could still not win the game. Because
what's going off? Like 35 isn't off enough.
30, I think 35 is probably as much as we're going to allow him to have.
I'm gonna need it
unless he's really showing me something spectacular.
I'm gonna predict the 50 burger.
A 50 burger.
A 50 burger.
I think you're diminishing the fact that this is the number 1 defense in the league he's going up against.
This is Steph the Chef.
He's going to be seeing a ton of any pick and roll. He's going to be seeing.
He's going to get blitz on all pick and rolls.
Half court.
I mean,
and luckily for them, Draymond's probably the best short roll guy in the NBA.
He's going to be the X factor. He's going to have to set up Steph
He's going
Curry.
to be 15 assists.
Yeah.
Like, Draymond's going to have a 15 assist game, but in order for Draymond to have a 15 assist game, it's going to bring us to the reason why Golden State can't win on the playing game. That's Andrew Wiggins and Kent Bazemore as their primary wings.
I'll say it.
That's who they're going with.
They're going to need.
He's got injury problems.
They're going to need a big game from Andrew Wiggins. He's been in the playoffs before, and Andrew Wiggins has played good in playoff situations. So in your scenario, you got the Lakers going into 7.
Yes.
I'll take Golden State going into 7. RIP to the Suns. It's bad in both scenarios. They're going to play the Lakers or the Warriors.
They probably are praying for Steph Curry to do to give them the night that you're expecting them to have, because at least they can outnumber them talent-wise. But yeah, the really sucky situations for the Suns to that they worked so hard to have the second best record in basketball, and their reward is 2 teams with nothing but championship mentality.
All right, so next is the 9-10.
Yeah.
Luckily, the West is always deep, so it's still 2 good teams playing technically.
With high-end star talent,
young guys,
Jackson, and then for the Spurs,
DeJounte Murray,
DeMar DeRozan can show up and play.
Derek White, DeMar DeRozan.
Derek White's not gonna be back.
Oh, he's not gonna be back.
He's done for the season. But and the most important weapon for San Antonio, Greg Popovich. That's the weapon. That's the guy who's gonna if San Antonio's gonna win 2 games to get into the playoffs, which you can never rule San Antonio out of doing such a thing. It'll be because of Popovich scheming up to take John Moran out of the game.
I think this really sucks for Memphis because I think if Portland was to fall into the play-in, that's the team Memphis would have would have preferred to see a team like them instead of the Lakers or the Warriors. Because we just saw the Warriors do them up the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So who you got?
I'm going to take San Antonio, to be honest with you, because the veteran experience of that team, like Greg Popovich has done nothing but playing big games. He's the best scheming coach in the NBA. They have enough talent. They don't have a ton of talent, but DeMar DeRozan, DeJounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, Keldon Johnson, Rudy Gay played in big games. Patty Mills has been on championship teams. And with the coaching advantage I think that they have, although I love Memphis' coach, I got to give it to San Antonio just because I trust San Antonio more in this big game spot to make it happen.
Hey, at least we got some disagreement because I'm going to rock with Ja, and I'm going to go with Memphis.
They're the more talented team, and they should be the favorite. They deserve to be the favorite.
I'll take Memphis. It's going to be probably a good game. Sucks because unfortunately, I don't believe either team is going to make it in the next playing scenario. The winner of this game is going to play the loser of the next game, and either if it's the Lakers or the Golden State Warriors, I've got the Lakers and Golden State Warriors locking up the last two spots.
Like they have to play each other, but that's the 7 and 8 seeds.
Yeah,
we think those will be the 7 and 8 seeds.
Whoever loses that game is still going to probably beat if Golden State. You just saw what Golden State did for Memphis the other night, and San Antonio can't beat the Lakers or Golden State probably. So I'm pretty sure on the West we got Lakers. No matter, we got different orders. You've got Lakers at 7,
Warriors at 8.
I've got Warriors at 7, Lakers at 8. But for Utah, in my scenario, I think wherever the Lakers end up, it sucks for this. We'll find out if it sucks for the Suns or it sucks for Utah because they're gonna have to play the LA Lakers.
They're going home in the first round. Whoever sees the Lakers in the first round is going home in the first round. It's unfortunate for them, but that's just the way it's going to be. All right. So do you want to move over to the
East? So we'll break down the standings in the East. So Philadelphia finally reaches its potential for trusting the process and they're going to be the 1 seed. I think that Ben Simmons in the playoffs might be their downfall, probably.
And Doc Rivers.
And can't forget about Doc Rivers. Probably going down on a 3-1 blown lead. But they got the 1 seed. Good year. Did they go wire to wire? I mean, the Nets gave them some. The Nets did give them some fight this year.
But yeah, Philadelphia has been the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference from start to finish the entire year. Gotta give them credit for that.
At 2, we got my Brooklyn Nets. Wire to wire. Second best team easily. Milwaukee might have given a fight to move up a little bit. But with all the injuries, to finish as a 2 seed is really crazy. But the team is 10 deep with
the most talented. It's clearly the most talented team in the NBA. Definitely the most talented in the Eastern Conference. The 2 seed feels, even with the injuries that they dealt with, the 2 seed seems about right. They probably could have been higher, should have been higher. Milwaukee with a strange stumble down the stretch. They looked like they were going to come up and have a chance at the 2 or the 1 seed, but with a couple of weird losses to Houston and
I think they
Atlanta.
Speaking of Milwaukee, they're 3. I think they kind of wanted to play Miami in the first round. I think they played their way into wanting to get a revenge matchup against Miami.
That's interesting because that's the worst possible matchup for them, I think, in the first round.
Probably, but I think they want to prove themselves. But at 3, we've got Milwaukee, who I think is another talented team in the East.
I think this is the second best team in the Eastern Conference.
I agree. I think it's Brooklyn, then Milwaukee,
then
Philly. Mainly because of Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. It's just you can't. How can you trust the guy who you know you can completely scheme out of the game plan on the offensive end when it matters most?
And we all know Joel Embiid's got his injury problems, so he's always wishy-washy on his availability.
Ben Simmons makes Joel Embiid easier to defend because you don't even have to guard him in the half-court sense, and that's when Joel Embiid's going to be his most effective. So it's gonna be tough on. They have the talent to beat the lesser talented teams in the Eastern Conference. Like they should be able to handle whoever they see in the playing game, but
their coaching's gonna have to get them. Their coaching's gonna have to get them over, and their coach is a little overrated too. So good luck to them for that. At 4 is the surprise of the year, the New York Knicks.
Wow.
Don't know how they got here, but they got here. They're not a top 6 talented team in the East, probably.
I don't think so.
But they've got the second or third best coaching behind maybe the best coaching, actually, as I look at it.
I think you could argue that. I like Eric Spoelstra too.
He might be the best coach. I'll say he's the best coach in the East, probably.
And I guess you got to take a little bit off of Brad Stevens now.
And I'm going to take a little off of Bud because he's a little overrated in the
So
playoffs.
yeah, if you want to say he Tibbs the second best coach in the East, I won't argue with you.
And then you're arguing Steve Nash. So
Yeah.
like, they're not a lot of, and maybe Nate McMillan, who was actually the
He
coach.
got fired this year. How could I really? How could a coach who got fired be the best coach in the Eastern Conference?
But speaking of Nate McMillan, the guy who's been swept out of the playoffs the last 3 seasons, he rebounded and found himself coaching the 5 seed Atlanta Hawks.
Completely turned their season around.
Yeah, he figured out how to use Trae Young correctly, and I think they also got a little healthier. Bogdanovich came back. What's the other European guy they got?
Bogdanovich.
Gallinari.
I think that'd be Bogdanovich.
Yeah, that's Bogdan.
Danilo Gallinari definitely came back too. DeAndre Hunter came back at the end of the year. He
Cam
finally
Reddish
just, like,
going MIA.
He got the Achilles soreness. You know you can't mess with that. You might as well sit him down.
Clint Capella.
That's the big one because they didn't get a chance to really use Capella last year after the
But
trade deadline.
it also showed that, you know how I felt like John Collins was a little overrated. Moving him into a secondary role is
the
kind of
problem
probably.
is John Collins is best as a center
He's Clint
for
Capella.
his individual
He's-
numbers, but he center doesn't help. Isn't what's the best for their team for him playing center. So yeah. Good
So-
team though, very good on defense. Trae Young finally is in the playoffs in a strong seat at the 5 spot.
And I'll
this is
say-
his opportunity. This
This is a toss. This is gonna get, when we do our predictions in a couple weeks after the play-in is over. The 4 or 5 is gonna be a toss-up. It's gonna be a
This looks
toss-up.
like 7 games.
Yeah. At 6 is the Miami Heat, who had an underwhelming season.
Dark horse.
But they're a dark horse.
The biggest dark horse in the Eastern Conference. They can knock off anybody.
I will
just
say
because.
Tyler Hero fell back down to earth. Duncan Robinson fell back down to earth, even though there's rumors that he's going to get paid like Joe Harris this offseason.
Of course.
Jimmy Butler's still Jimmy Buckets.
Bam.
Bam is Bam. This is if a low seed was to make a run at the playoffs, it would be the Miami Heat. But
We got to look back at the Miami Heat. Don't forget they started the season with Jimmy and COVID protocols and dealing with injuries. They've had tons of injuries to their roster to start the year. They were way behind. I think 5-6 games below 500 at the beginning of the year. So
and they finished over the Celtics.
It's like in the second half of the season, they've been one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the Eastern Conference.
They got the best coach.
Yes,
They
I agree.
they got the best coach, and they have the best defensive scheme. They know how to play like 17 million different defenses.
And Jimmy Butler has shown that when it matters, he can go bucket for bucket and be that number 1 guy and carry his team to the promised land when it's absolutely necessary. I think Miami's a team who was playing in the finals in the bubble last year, and all those teams who were in the finals, conference finals, have dealt with tons of injury problems, wear and tear, tiredness. The regular season wasn't as important to them as it was to maybe some other teams. The fact that they're sitting here at the 6th seed, playing the team they knocked off in the playoffs last year, Miami's in a spot where they could be a first round exit, or they could be playing in the conference finals.
The only thing that scares me is their talent. I think they have 2 all-star caliber players, one top 10, Bam's top 15 on his best day. But their third best player is Tyler Hero.
I like Goran Dragic.
He was a little
They
banged up this
they
year.
brought in Trevor
Ariza.
Ariza.
Trevor Ariza is still kicking around, shooting threes, playing defense. But
I'm a fan, and I'm the guys like Kendrick Nunn, who they have on their roster. Adrian Iguodala's still there.
he's washed.
He looks pretty dumb, but in the playoffs for
He
a
might hit
certain
one of those
matchup,
shots?
for certain matchups,
Face
certain
of Infinity
situations.
Universe?
I'm not asking Adrian Iguodala to take that shot, but
We know
to
what
each
Max.
his own.
Yeah, we know how Max Kellerman feels about that.
All right, and now for the play.
So the first one is the very super underwhelming season, but I love to see it, from the 7th seed Boston Celtics.
Another one of those teams who played in the conference finals last year. So, like every other team, the injuries have come for them.
But their second half was worse than their start.
But the injuries have not finished. As you see, Jaylen Brown will not be participating in the play-in tournament and or playoff games. Kemba Walker's been
he's done.
a shell of himself
He's
the
done.
entire
He's done.
year.
That's a bad
Jason Tatum
contract.
says he can't even breathe normally after the COVID that he's dealt with.
It's been a while. I mean, he's gonna keep running that off until.
It's like, apparently it's been like I haven't had COVID, but he says apparently he dropped the 60 burger with it. So how much is it affecting him? We really don't know. But yeah, rough season for the Boston Celtics.
Marcus
And
Smart's been in and out the lineup. They have 0 rim protection, 0 big presence. And then the 8th seed is going to be the team that rebounded. And I said all year that sooner or later that with that talent they would get it together and fight back into the playoff picture. the 8-seeded Washington Wizards, led by Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Probably a top 5 for sure backcourt in the league. Probably top 3. Maybe Portland's is alright, but they got one of the better
Portland's,
backcourts.
Brooklyn's. Let's see.
Phoenix.
Phoenix is definitely in the discussion for it. So yeah, a few good backcourts. They're definitely deserve to be in the conversation. The Wizards, they're a lot like the Miami Heat. COVID, they had to miss like 2 weeks of games because of COVID. To
And
start
Russell
the year.
was hurt to start
Russell
the year.
was hurt. He looked like at the beginning of the year, in the first month and a half of the season, John Wall looked like the better player. Isn't that crazy?
That's what you were saying.
Hey, that's what it looked.
That was like 2 weeks. That was 2 weeks.
That's what it looked like. And of course, because of their injury situations, Westbrook got healthier
And
while
went back
John
to being
Wall
Russell
got
Westbrook.
less healthy. And we see how that worked out for both of those teams. Good on the Wizards for figuring out a way to keep their team competitive. John Wall clearly wasn't going to be the guy to help them move forward, while Russell Westbrook gives them a legit chance to be competing in playoff games.
And I will say, I like the young guys. I like Rui. I mean, you got to see Rui live this year. You went to go see the Wizards game against LA.
And Rui showed some very good athleticism that I did not expect to see. Denny Advia is a guy
I
who
like him.
can
Yeah.
play. They got a bunch of guys who just show up and play good basketball.
If they could add one more piece this year, they should be where the Hawks and Knicks are next year. The only thing is, I'll always stand by it. They've got Scott Brooks as their coach.
They're like the Wizards are, as much as we are talking about the Wizards, that's a team who's getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs.
Highly likely.
Love the Wizards, great story, but this is maybe they win the play-in, and I expect them to be a playoff team. I expect them to be 7 or 8, but I don't expect them to last too much longer.
So I guess the first matchup for Tuesday. So the Eastern games are actually tomorrow and Tuesday.
Yes,
So
7-8. We got the Wizards and the Celtics.
who you got?
In one game with everybody healthy, the game's in Boston. I do think that matters. Brad Stevens is a significantly better coach.
Yeah,
I
probably.
do think that matters. But just off of the way they've entered these play-in tournament, I gotta take the Wizards. They're the healthier team. With the injuries, they're probably the more talented team at this point. I really don't see a scenario. I mean, I can see scenarios in which Jason Tatum goes crazy and wins the game for him. The Wizards can't defend anybody, while the Celtics
can't defend
the
anybody,
Celtics have a
but-
better opportunity to defend people. Marcus Smart's an All-NBA caliber defender.
Bradley Beal's knocked up, apparently nicked up.
And Bradley Beal's not exactly 100%, so it's going to be the Russell Westbrook show, and he can win
You live and
games
die.
and he can lose games.
You live and die on the
this is
reckless side.
I call it a toss-up. I would think if they play this game 10 times with the roster they have right now, the Wizards would probably win 6 out of those 10 times.
I disagree. I think if there was a series, Brad Stevens would overcome the.
Even without Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, Brad Stevens is that much of a better coach
Oh, wow.
than Scott Brooks, if we're being for real. But I also agree with you. I think this is two different teams heading in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics are descending at the current moment, while the Wizards are ascending.
The Celtics almost don't even have motivation to win this series.
Yes.
Like,
So they really shouldn't really be trying to get in the playoffs. Actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Wizards to win.
agree.
But the only thing that scares me is when you're living and dying with Russell Westbrook in playoff situations. You're living and dying with Russell Westbrook in playoff situations.
And as we've seen, there's been plenty of teams who have schemed Russell Westbrook against himself, and that's how you win.
Yeah.
Where you're playing a Russell Westbrook-led team, if you can make Russell Westbrook want to take a bunch of jump shots and force him into some turnovers, you could definitely pull out against them. They're not going to be good on defense, so the Celtics will be able to score. If Kemba could show up for one night and look like Kemba, the Celtics definitely have a chance, but I think the Wizards
The
are
kid they got off the bench, Pritchard, he's going to need a big game if the Celtics want to win. The Celtics can win. It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up, but it really doesn't matter because both teams are heading into the 7th seed to get slaughtered by the Nets.
by your
So
Brooklyn Nets.
I would prefer to beat the Celtics just for the laughs, but
I also think the Celtics are an easier matchup for you guys, but we'll talk about that later.
the rematch of the rematch of Russell and Katie and James and Scott Brooks and Jeff Green.
The storylines are all there.
So yeah, we'll go with the Wizards. Consensus right there.
And then
The 9-8, we've got the Pacers who done fired their coach and fell all off the map. That's sad to see.
it's been
The injuries.
a rough second half of the year this
The
season for the
injuries.
Pacers. They look like a team who was going to be strongly back in their typical 4 to 6 seed. But with Karis LeVert, who finally came back and looks like he's more entering his form.
Malcolm Brogdon went down.
Malcolm Brogdon went down, but I think they said he might be available for the playing game.
Sabonis.
Sabonis has become an all-star caliber player. He's I don't know how much worse he is than Julius Randle. I just think the team.
He's just as good, probably.
It's like I just think the team around him hasn't been as good as they would like him to be.
The coaching, they said they're going to fire the coach, probably.
Yeah, they've had a real issue with the coach. I don't know why they haven't fired him already when they basically told everybody he's getting fired after the season. I don't know why you wait.
The season's not over yet.
It especially sucks that the coach that they fired has led the Hawks to a 5 seed.
Yeah.
But
so they better hope he gets swept again to make them feel good about themselves. But
for this one matchup, they're in a toss up.
Yeah. And 10 is Charlotte. So they're another matchup where two teams going in two different directions. Charlotte's getting healthy. Pacers have
No
been
Gordon
nicked
Hayward
up.
though. Gordon Hayward will not be available.
He's always hurt, man. He's always hurt. This is crazy. So it's Pacers versus Hornets, and the Pacers are home. So
I don't think that matters for these two teams. Like,
I mean, the Pacers have a good fan base when they're home. So
I mean, they're not. It's not going to be fully packed, even with the new CDC guidelines. I doubt it's packed enough to make a significant difference. And honestly, you could go either way. This is a coin flip type of thing because both teams have dealing with injuries. Both teams have high level talent that can perform, but that same talent can also have a rough night in the biggest game of their seasons.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough, because I'm a big fan of Karis LeVert. Like Sabonis, but I'd love to see LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges in the playoffs.
I think that's the thing here. I think in terms of like what we want to see, I think we would much rather watch the Charlotte Hornets get some playoff experience with those young guys. Devontae Graham, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier is even younger, even though he's
good in the playoffs too.
And Miles Bridges has become this surprisingly great two-way wing for them.
I told you he was better than Mikal.
I don't know if he's better.
They're close. They're pretty close still.
I think Miles is better on offense. Mikal's better on defense. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Both
right
are
now.
really good athletes. Both
Really
are
good athletes.
So I'm gonna go with the Hornets. I'll take the Hornets. I'll take the Hornets. I'll rock with LaMelo and his squad. I don't feel strong about it, but
I think I gotta go with the Pacers. If Brogdon's out there, Brogdon, LeVert is a bonus. I think
Turner.
And no, I think Turner's done for the year too.
Oh man.
I'm pretty sure Turner's done for the year too. But I think with Sabonis, LeVert, and Brogdon at home, and all those guys have played in big playoff games before, I think that experience will put them over the top of the Hornets. If the Hornets had Gordon Hayward, I'd feel differently. But with that injury and LaMelo Ball never playing in a game this big in his life, I just don't know what to expect. I think I know what to expect from the Pacers.
It's a toss-up. So we got the Wizards going into 7.
Yes.
So both of us agree that the Celtics are probably going to be playing in the last chance game.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so you've got Celtics versus Pacers. I've got Celtics versus Hornets.
I think I take the Celtics in either of those.
I
games.
agree with you. I think I'm gonna take the Celtics too. Jason Tatum will get him over the hump one time. Yeah.
I think the Celtics would be the 8th seed almost no matter what.
So they get to head to go play their favorite matchup, Philly. So the stories are there too. The stories are there.
Boston does nothing but beat Philly every year.
So Philly can get some revenge,
So-
hopefully. But because now the tables have turned. Last year Philly was hurt.
out.
This year Jaylen Brown's hurt. So hopefully Philly could get some revenge. But I guess that's it for that, and we'll be back next week to predict.
I guess don't the playoffs start this weekend?
I think next week. I haven't checked the schedule at all. I don't think they've released the schedule.
We'll be back before the playoffs start.
Yeah.